Barissa scores! There's scenes here at Perry Park!
Chris Lynn has taken the wild thing and sent him.
Oh, Bateman! Bateman! Yeah!
Welcome back to another episode of the Beyond the Sidelines podcast. My name's Campbell Johnson, and with me, as always, is Finn Morton and Angus Bryan. But Angus, you've described it as the armpit of Queensland. Where are you at the moment? You're remote.
Yeah, well, I'm in Rockhampton this weekend for New Year's Eve. I don't know if I'd call it an armpit. It's just very hot. You know, it's getting upwards of 40 degrees up here in Rocky. It's been a bit tough this morning trying to get a hold of you boys and do this recording. So we finally got it going. So yeah, I'm excited.
Well, what have you done in Rocky, mate? What are some of the sites that you've embraced?
Oh, you know, we've just been traveling around, visited Grandma. You know,
Lovely, mate.
just the good stuff. We're gonna hit up the rodeo on New Year's Eve, so we'll see how that treats me.
Well,
I
mate,
think it'll be all right.
Rockhampton Tourism Office comes knocking. What are you saying?
Have you checked out the botanical gardens? They are great. They're a bit dry right now, though. There hasn't
Mate,
been
you're
much
selling
rain.
it. You're really selling it to me.
There hasn't been much rain. I don't know how much water's there, but you know what? It was good. They got a good downpour a couple nights ago, so good stuff up here.
Well, I'm sold. When do we go?
Let's go. Road trip to Rocky.
Yeah.
Boys, let's get into our Fast Five. Fast Five is where we have 5 topics over 5 minutes. We try and get through them as quickly as we can. Let's get it started. Brisbane Roar, boys, what did they need for Chrissy? What was in their stocking, or what did they wish was in their stocking this year, or under the tree?
A replacement for Roy O'Donovan.
You reckon?
I think so, but also a defender.
Yep.
Third worst defensive record in the league.
Yep.
And the worst attacking record in the league, I think, goal scoring wise.
Conversion rate wise, and I think goals scored, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So terrible.
And again, we've
It's the conversion rate, really. That's the bad thing. They're making the chances, but they're just not putting it in the back of the net. Roy O'Donovan's just not doing the job for them.
Well, we've spoken about this plenty off air. Roy O'Donovan, he's not a player who's going to take a team to a title, is he?
No.
You
No
look
way.
at your Jamie McLarens, you look at your Bursart Barishas. They are. And that's why their teams are doing so well.
And your Adam Lafondras too.
Exactly.
As
Roy
well.
O'Donovan, he's just a hothead, isn't he?
I just don't fancy him that much. And also, I think, would you rather see Dylan Wenzel-Halls up front for them?
Maybe. Well, I would prefer to see Adam Taggart there. I know he's off to the K-League, but he did some crazy stuff in the K-League. Because I think his side won the title under Ange.
Yeah.
So he was banging them all year for that K-League side. If only the Raw had him up front, you know, it might be a different story.
It's a good shout.
The J-League, mate.
The J-League.
Japan.
Is it the J-League? Oh.
Yeah.
The K-League's the Korean league, isn't it?
It
Yep,
is.
that's
That's why
the
it
one.
starts with the K. But January transfer window gives them the opportunity to maybe go searching, go find some wonders.
Splash the cash a little bit. As you said, they do need a defender as well, but I think Roy Donovan's played 9 games this season, 6 goals, but he's got a hat-trick in 1 game. So, kind of very bad.
But that was against City, and there were 2 penalties in that.
It was, which is, one from open play. So he's only scored, 4 from open play?
You could do that.
Maybe. Yeah, it's pretty bloody dreadful, honestly. Second up, something close to my heart, beast mode. Seattle Seahawks have had quite a few injuries heading into playoff season, which they are playoff bound for a wildcard spot. This is in the NFL, if you don't already know. The Seattle Seahawks have had injuries to lead backs Chris Carson and Rashad Penny, as well as CJ Prosise, who's often the third back. They've signed Marshawn Lynch, former player. He was incredible with us, former Buffalo Bill, former Raider. He was pouring shots at the Bills, and then got signed by the Seahawks only a few days afterwards. What did he say in an interview?
Well, it was 8 days before he was signed by Seattle. He was at a Buffalo Bills game, and he was pouring shots of tequila for the Bills fans. What do they call them? The Bills Mafia?
Bills Mafia, yeah.
No, but at an interview, his announcement press conference, it went for 12 seconds. He's not a big fan of press conferences, Marshawn Lynch.
No, famously, the man who said, I'm only here
so I don't get fined. And no, he said, Merry New Year. So either he's taking the mickey or he's just very confused of what's going on at the festive season.
Look, he's a character. He's a character, isn't he? He's the man who loves his Skittles. He stole the van the medical cart when he was in college when they won I think it was the Rose Bowl, and he was driving around in it while eating some Skittles. So he loves it. he's real character, which is good to see. But I think the main story here is Travis Homer, the rookie, will be getting the start. I assume that's what ESPN has him on the depth chart. Yep. I think he's been very impressive this year. He's been really good on special teams, which is where a lot of rookies kind of start off.
So he's earned his chance.
He's earned his chance well and truly, and he's impressed when he's had the opportunity. He hasn't had many. He's had 8 carries, but he has had a lot of yards with them. So I'm interested to see what he does with his time. He's only played in 3 games as a back, at least anyway. He may have played more on special teams, but over the past few weeks, he's been showing up in a lot of the highlights. So he's quite an explosive player, good in the run game, but really good in the receiving game as well. So it's kind of that all-rounded back that'll be good for 3 downs or 2 downs, and then you maybe get someone like Marshawn Lynch in.
Well, if we jump back to Lynch for a second, how does head coach Pete Carroll utilise Lynch as a second-string running back?
I think
is he a third down back, or
I think so. I think he's more physical than Travis Homer. Travis Homer's more of an elusive and kind of dynamic back, where Marshawn Lynch is more, while he is dynamic, he's a bit, and especially that he's a bit older now and he's pouring shots, he's not as he maybe only has 1 down in him.
Yep. So Homer's more of your, try and run around the outside or even a receptive?
Yeah, he's more of that kind of maybe throw a screen to him, maybe a short yardage play, or even just run it with him.
Well, if we're talking short yardage, mate, if there's the chance, they're 1 yard out from the end goal, did they run the ball with Lynch?
Yeah. I wish we did.
Or did they pass
it? Or did they pass it?
See, I don't. I really enjoyed that. That was my first Super Bowl. Go the Pats Nation. Anyway.
Let's not talk about it. Anyway, Gussie, one for you here. Jai Arrow signs for South Sydney. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, it was sort of expected over the last sort of 2 weeks. We all were thinking about it, and he's finally agreed to it. He'll be going to South Sydney to replace Sam Burgess, sort of cult hero of South Sydney Rugby League club. So he's aiming to be in Redfern by 2020. Agreed to a 4-year deal from 2021, but I see him probably getting there in 2020. I assume they'll make that happen. It's bad news for the Gold Coast as well, who have really done nothing in the transfer market other than lose probably their best player.
Well, there's been lots of talk of stuff they will do, but it seems like talk is cheap at the moment. They're not really doing much.
Well, if they let go of Arrow for next season, they'll need to get compensated somehow. So could there be some form of swap deal with the Rabbitohs, especially when you think about salary caps and the fact that they are apparently after Latrell Mitchell. Someone like Dane Gagai, who's on a bit of money,
shout,
but is
big name, Queenslander.
Could be on the out.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk.
Bring him home. So could there be a chance that Gagai moves to the Gold Coast in 2020 as a replacement for Jai Arrow?
I see that as a real possibility. It seems that he's unhappy where he's playing at the Bunnies. So I believe he wants to, he's in the centres a lot, and I believe he wants to be on the wing more. Yep. He's a better player on the wing, and yeah, it's not the destination he wants to be. So I really do see him going to the Gold Coast and being one of their staple players, and maybe that frees up the option to bring Latrell to South Sydney.
Well, I think Gold Coast have a lot of space.
They actually don't.
They don't.
They're not very smart with their money.
Yeah, they're really tied up in a few players. Players like Shannon Boyd. He's on about $800,000 a year.
Ooh.
Ash Taylor, $950,000.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good signs for the Gold Coast.
They need to shed those contracts.
Well, what about Jimmy the Jet? Because he used to play for the Titans, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So he went from the Titans to the Broncos.
No, wasn't it Canberra?
South, yeah.
He was at Canberra at one point.
No. Was he at Canberra? I don't think so.
Was he? I think he was.
No.
Anyway, someone who's very close to our heart, boys. Someone has been called up to the test squad. Mitch Swepson, the Nudgee College old boy from the Brisbane Heat, has been called up to the Sydney test squad. Firstly, what do we think about that for him?
Well, I can't help but feel that if he wasn't at Nudgee, he would have already made his debut.
Ooh.
Yeah, if he was at BBC, he'd probably be captain.
How many? Who was the last BBC old boy to be capped?
That's irrelevant. Would have been Swepson. No, but it's great.
Hartley?
Chris Hartley, he wasn't capped for the test team, though. Fact check.
Wasn't he?
Fact check. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Oh, shame.
Swepson been called up for the Sydney test. Gussie, they normally play 2 spinners at the SCG. Normally it's been Lyon paired with O'Keefe. But now Swepson.
Well,
the leg spinner. Warney was calling for him in the test team, I think, 2 years ago. off the back of
well,
some BBL form. So
Yeah, well, the Sydney wicket usually plays well for spinners, so that's clearly the thought behind it. Australia haven't really stuck with a leg spinner since Warne,
No.
so it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. I think they've trialled guys like Stephen O'Keefe, what's his name, Cameron Boyce. They've trialled guys like this, but it hasn't really worked out. So we'll see how Schwepson goes. I reckon he'll do well.
Do you?
Queenslander, so yeah, he'll obviously do well.
So he's a Queenslander, so that's why he's going to do well.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, look at Labuschagne, mate. Look at Labuschagne.
Exactly. Would you think we need to play two spinners, considering we have players like, well, Labuschagne's doing pretty well with the ball in hand.
Travis
Head, exactly. Do you think we need to bring another?
They're more part-time spinners.
More specialist?
They're looking for a strike spin bowler. And, I mean, if you've watched the BBL, Schwepson's probably been the standout Brisbane Heat bowler.
Yeah, for sure.
I think he's taken about 5 wickets.
Yeah, he's doing very well.
In 3 games. So he's doing quite well with the ball, and obviously that's the thought behind it.
Well, Australia has quite a few good spinners at the moment, I think. I think we got, like, as you said, Cameron Boyce. We've also got Travis Head, those kind of guys. But we've also got Adam Zampa.
Well, that's Zampa. I'm actually a bit surprised
he
thinking
didn't
about
get
it
pulled
now
up.
that he wasn't the one called up, because he has that international experience.
Yeah, he does. I also agree with you. I think Zampa's a great bowler, and I'm shocked that he hasn't really had as much of an opportunity. I think they've clearly gone off BBL form,
but BBL form shouldn't correlate to the Test arena, should it?
Exactly.
It's a completely
I think he
different
had
game.
a decent Sheffield Shield season as well,
Yeah.
Schwepson. So yeah, they go off form a lot, and I think Schwepson is in better form than Zampa at the moment.
Could Zampa maybe have some issues with the selectors, potentially? Do you think?
Oh, possibly. No idea.
Because that's what's
I have no idea.
potentially holding back Matt Renshaw as well. He's been doing actually all right with the ball.
He has been. No, but congratulations to Swepper. That's awesome news.
Very happy. Oh, quickly, who could replace him in that Brisbane Heat side?
I like the thought of Gannon,
Yeah,
a fast bowler. I
interesting.
think we could utilise that. And then you've got Renshaw, where I think you could get away with using a part-time bowler for a couple of overs for a bit of spin.
Yeah, I like the idea of Mujibu Rahman in the second half of the tournament, or maybe Matt Kuhneman.
They need a strike bowler now, and I think the best weapon they've got is young Jack Presswich.
Yep.
He's fast.
He's already in the team.
Paced. Yeah, is he playing?
He played last game.
At the Gold Coast.
He played last game. I reckon
BCG.
he wasn't in for the first 2 games.
No, he wasn't.
But he's probably the go-to guy for the Brisbane Heat right now.
Maybe just take some more overs.
I mean, they've got they dropped Mark Steckety for the last game, so I assume he'll probably be back.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Or do they need another batsman potentially? Well, on our notes here, Bryce Street, he's not actually contracted to them.
Oh, isn't he?
No, he's not in the squad at all.
That's interesting.
I know.
Okay.
Why is he not in the squad?
Yeah, that's very strange.
He's been one of the standout players for the Queensland Bulls, and he's not in the squad.
We should finish on this, mate. Keep in mind, AB de Villiers. He's due to arrive in January. So, exciting times. An exciting replacement, maybe.
Yeah.
If you want to go with another batsman, especially with...
he'll be playing.
Yeah, but Renshaw, he's going so well. But I think that he would have been the one cut if de Villiers was to come in.
Nah, I don't think so. I think he's doing too well with the bat and the ball.
No, exactly. He won't be now.
They'll cut Sam Haslett.
Exactly.
Sam Haslett, yeah.
They will now, but at the start of the season,
he would have been.
I think the plan would have been to cut Renshaw.
I think so too, but he's doing too well. Anyway, last one, boys. The Brisbane Bandits, they just lost the series 3-1 to the Canberra Cavalry, just narrowly avoiding a sweep against one of the worst teams on record in the competition at the start of the series. They now sit equal last at the bottom of their division.
Aren't they outright last? We
Yeah,
checked that last night. I think they were. They were behind...
no, I think they ended up being equal with that last win.
Geelong Korea.
Yeah, I think they ended up being equal last. 5 ships in a row looks increasingly bleak, boys. What do you think? Destiny maybe not be happening. May not be in the destiny.
They're not showing any championship signs, are they? They're
not really.
Looking like a team who can win when they need to. They're in this situation now where when they play teams like Auckland and the Sydney Blue Sox, they're pretty much going to have to sweep them, or they're going to have to get pretty close if they want to start moving up that ladder.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Auckland Taltara, they've just moved up. They swept the Blue Sox, by the way.
They had an incredible week.
But yeah, now they sit. I think it's 4 games back. 4 or 5 games back.
Yeah, I think they're on 8 wins or something
Exactly.
like that.
So it's
Well, we talked
bleak.
to David Sutherland a few weeks ago, and he said it was an uncharacteristic slow start.
Yeah.
You know, they're not usually like this. They brought a few young guys in. Clearly, at the moment it looks like it might be a bit of a rebuilding phase for the Bandits with these young guys coming in. It might not be that standout, season.
Guys, you use the word slow start. How long can a slow start go for before it's considered a bad season?
A bad season.
Because we're about halfway. I think we're nearing the halfway point.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're simply well under par. Under par. So, yeah, 5 in a row. I think it's a very much an outside chance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the squad on paper looks quite good. That's the thing. They maybe just have a few older players in there. Dave Nielsen, the manager, seems to be quite confident they'll bounce back. We'll see how that goes. Hopefully they can get some more results down at Holloway Field. But anyway, boys.
Well, if they can, this would be arguably their best premiership year, wouldn't it?
If they can come back from this. Yeah.
I think, what a redemption story, in a way.
Yeah.
Defying the odds.
Well, it's certainly not over for them, so let's hope they pull it back. Anyway, boys, this week we've got no interview. So we're doing a 2019 highlights. We do have one in the bank, but we're not going to release it yet. We've got a 2019 highlights. We're going to look at all the highs and lows of this year, the year that was in grassroots and in professional. We're going to look at some standout athletes. But boys, enough of that. Let's just get straight into it. And we're back. Okay, boys, 2019. What did you guys? What kind of year did you guys have, just in general?
Yeah, it was good.
It was good.
Yep.
Man of many words. You are.
Oh, yeah. Well, why say a lot of words when you can get the point across quickly?
Fair enough. Concision is always great. Gussie, what about you, mate?
Oh, I love 2019. Roosters.
I love 2019.
I love 2019.
Roosters getting another win, of course. So, I mean, what can be better than that?
And of course, there was the All Blacks winning the world.
Oh, wait, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, South Africa won it. Anyway, boys, let's get straight into it. 2019 highlights. What was one of your highlights, Phineas?
Well, this is going to sound quite weird because I'm a Wellington boy.
Yeah.
But the Phoenix losing to the Brisbane Strikers at Perry Park.
Oh, that's a good one.
Wow.
And that was the first of a great run of a couple of wins by the Brisbane Strikers at Perry Park. They were quite lucky.
They were.
Quite fortunate even to have home fixtures, I think, pretty much all the way through the
all the way through.
FFA Cup. Jesus.
Especially in the knockout rounds, yeah.
Exactly.
They were home every time.
Actually, I think they were.
They were?
Yeah, they were.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that game that Gussie, you weren't at, but Campbell, mate, the scenes when Bond saved the penalty in extra time.
Well, he saved, yeah.
And then I think there were 2 penalties in the penalty shootout.
Yep, that he saved. Oh, we were there, and you were not happy at the time, but we were behind the goal, underneath the YMCA, which again, that's another conversation. Scenes, pitch invasion, just one of the, again, I would probably say the same, one of my favourite moments.
Again, I said it when we were speaking to Bon a few weeks ago, but what happened was the last penalty was missed.
Yeah.
And then one guy ran onto the pitch. And he was the only guy on there for about, I'd say 30 seconds.
And then he looked behind him.
Exactly. He was running on, looking behind him, looking for the security. But I think the security was like cheering himself.
Yeah.
And then, everyone followed. And we walked on too and got amongst it, and it was very cool. But again, that whole run by the Strikers, moment of the year.
Yeah.
Has to be a standout.
Certainly. And that's why you love grassroots sport, hey?
Mate, it's why you love it. Magic of the Cup.
Magic of the Cup, baby. Yeah, that was awesome. Gussie, do you have any standout moments?
I do, and it's a bit sad for me and Finn being BBC old boys,
Finn
and I.
I'm gonna highlight TSS in their GPS rugby win. They were brilliant in 2019. Won another GPS rugby title, and they beat BBC on BBC's Old Boy Day, and that was probably one of the best games of rugby I've seen. Even though BBC didn't come away with the win, it was still a great spectacle, and TSS should be extremely proud of their season. They rebounded after losing last year to Nudgee. They should be really happy with themselves.
Well, they nearly didn't, mate, because round 1, they were playing at home to Nudgee College. And Hamish Roberts, the winger, who I'll touch on in a minute.
The Shark Tank.
He scored a penalty on the siren. Well, after the siren. That won that match.
Exactly.
Now, think about it. If they don't beat Nudgee, how different their season is how different BBC season is and how different Nudgee season is.
It's crazy.
Exactly.
Because if Nudgee win that, do you reckon they lose to BBC at Ross? No.
Probably not. No.
Exactly.
Well,
the
I
season
mean-
would have been very different, mate. Very different. I still think statistically they would have been one of the best sides in GPS history, but they might not have won it. But crazy stuff again. Hats off to them, mate. BBC old boys, I get we are, but still, credit where it's due, eh?
Yeah, and that game at the Shark Tank is probably one of the greatest, but it's probably one of the best GPS games I've ever seen.
Which one's that? Against Nudgee?
Against Nudgee, yeah.
Well,
There were some absolute classics this year. The GPS competition was great. I know there was only probably about 4 teams that
Four
really
teams.
threw their hat in this year, but those teams were absolutely outstanding. TSS were just better than the rest, you know.
They
were
really
just a step above.
and I think it was their round 8 match, because remember, they had a round 9 bye, so they had to do it all without a break. And it was their last match of the season. They were at home to Ipswich Grammar, who, Gussie, I think you'd consider were one of those 4 teams.
Yeah, they were one of those 4.
But they did lose, I think, 3 in a row. They lost to Nudgee, Churchy, and BBC in a row, which removed their title hopes. But basically, that last match against TSS, I think Ippy were leading by about 15 points 5 minutes into the second half.
Yeah.
And TSS, they clawed their way back to a draw. So to be fair, it wasn't a winning season, like a win-out season. But still, they didn't lose, and they did what they had to do.
And a win-out season's quite usually is what's required.
Oh, it is. And it was quite bizarre watching it on Double Take Sports, because I don't think the TSS players, they either didn't know that they had to draw it, or they were so focused on winning out all their games that they weren't actually like over the moon when the full-time whistle went. Hamish Roberts, again, I mentioned his name again. He was tackled into touch trying to run, a 60-metre try, which, again, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about Hamish Roberts. He was brilliant. The winger, he claimed the most points scored in one match. There's a record there. I think he was the leading point scorer in the year. They had Zane Nongor leading the pack up front. So that was brilliant as well.
Yeah.
Look, Hamish Roberts, for me, if he's not on a professional contract already, I think he should be, because he showed plenty of promise. He's not exactly a massive winger.
No.
But he does the job. He's a traditional winger.
Clutch too.
He is. And I think he's a bloke who could be a very good 15 in the future.
Yeah.
That'd be my tip. So, Queensland Reds, what are you doing?
Do we know what club he plays for?
We don't.
Is he a country boy? Is he a scholarship boy? Who knows?
I think he is a scholarship boy. Or
I would assume he would be.
I think he came through the systems from about grade 8 or 9, I think. I don't know that for sure, but that's a stab.
Exactly. Well, one of my moments was probably the NEAFL boys. The NEAFL competition this year was really good. I mean, it's a bit one-sided, I think we can say. I think it's pretty fair to say. Just a bit.
A little bit. Tiny bit.
Little bit.
Well, I mean, when the Lions are beating second place by over 100 points.
In the final.
Was that in the final? They did it. So they did it more than once.
Yeah.
There you go.
They beat them by I think it was either 70 or it was 120 Southport Sharks in the final.
And that's taking into account, remember when we spoke to Connor, he told us that the Lions couldn't field basically their top team.
Yep. Unfortunately, he couldn't play that day because, again, they had to, due to, I guess, fair play regulations, when they play against a team that isn't an academy, not an academy side, but essentially VFL.
Not an academy side.
Yeah, when it's it's hard to say, but when they play against a non-professional side, basically, they can only play a certain amount of contracted players, so they have to play rookies.
See, I think that's silly. I really do. I think fair play in sport, that's not what sport is.
No.
Again, as long as you're not using performance-enhancing drugs, then sport's sport.
Yeah.
Let it happen.
But what was interesting is we saw a lot of those. We saw Noah Cumberland play. We saw players that got drafted by Richmond play.
The recruit.
We saw Matty Eagles, who's unfortunately been cut. But there's a funny story about him too, about when they did Club Kit Day. I think Connor told us this. He rocked up in his recruit jersey.
The recruit who, for you guys who might not know this, it's basically like Top Model, those type of shows, but it was for AFL. And the top 3 on the final episode of the season were basically drafted.
Yep.
Or clubs were given the chance to draft these players. And Matty Eagles was drafted to the Lions. I think he played about 4 games.
Yeah, he did.
For the Lions. But
I got to say, that's putting a target on your back if you're rocking up in your recruit stuff.
Because again,
that's like rocking up in your Australian kit to to your Queensland
Yeah.
training or whatever.
It's like someone bringing like a Met North backpack to school.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
That was so you, wasn't it, too, mate?
Definitely. I've never made a Met North team, so not me. Not me.
No, but he kind of rocked it, I think, from what Connor told us. He loved being called the recruit. He owned it. And I guess that's the only way to get the better of it.
It is. Just just own it.
And
Yeah,
again,
you're right.
what Connor told us too about Matty Eagles, I think he was like the hardest trainer in the team.
Yeah, apparently he came in very raw,
Yeah.
not the greatest player, and he came out of it playing professional footy.
Well,
for a few years. He won caps in the senior team.
He won man of the match on the NEAFL Grand Final day,
He did.
but then was cut.
I think he
Doesn't really make sense to me, but it shows that youth, I guess, is what academies need.
He was in the NEAFL team of the year as well. I can't remember if he was captain or not. I'm not sure, but he was the captain of that side, and that's all that really mattered. But yeah, they were incredible. The total organisation, it was really a standout year for Brizzy. Can they back it up? I'm not confident. Because they were very lucky in the fact that I think they
Injuries.
didn't have any injuries until the final week, pretty much.
Yeah, but I think they showed that they have depth, and they're so significantly above everyone else.
Yeah.
that I don't think it's going to be that much of a concern.
I mean,
Oh, in the NEAFL competition, no doubt.
just looking at how much they beat their opponents by, I think they'll be fine for next year as well.
But yeah, so I think
If they're not in the finals, it'll be a shock.
what you were alluding to was the big boys, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The AFL guys.
Yeah.
Again, I'm with you. I think they'll scrape into the 8.
Yep. I definitely think the NEAFL boys can back it up, but in terms of the senior boys, in terms of the AFL boys, I'm not entirely confident in them.
Especially, I'll just put this to you, Campbell. Lockie Neal, he goes down in round 3
Exactly.
with a season-ending injury.
And he's really the barometer for that team.
He is, mate. If
leads
he's
the
not
way.
there, the Lions don't come top 2.
No.
Do they?
No.
Which, actually, thinking about it, is absolutely bonkers.
It's crazy. And, they lost Hodgie this year. They didn't really make that many moves in free agency, I can't remember.
No.
I don't really think they signed anyone because they thought, you know what, we don't need anyone. But who knows? They may have drafted well.
Alrighty, well, moving on. We'll move on to the Premier Grade Rugby because I don't think this is like a highlight. Well, it is. I think it's something that we need to touch on. UQ beating Brothers in the final. Mate, they came 4th at the end of the regular season, scraped into the semi-finals, and they managed to win 9 of their last 10, which saw them win the premiership. How good?
So good. And that final,
Very good.
that was a very, very good final at Ballymore.
Tate McDermott was very much the quarterback of that side.
He
Scored
was.
about 2 tries in that game, didn't he?
He did, but
He did.
to me, I'm not sure if I like that because
Yeah,
he's
I
the
know you're not a fan
established
of this.
he's the established Reds halfback. He didn't play the whole season in Prem grade, so he knocked Yost, the starting 9, out. And then he comes in for the grand final, scores 2, owns the day, and ultimately won UQ the premiership, didn't he? I don't know if that's right.
Yeah, well, it was heartbreak for Brothers and Fraser McWright. I know those boys worked very hard. They were great all year, and they just came up against a really good UQ side in the final. The UQ were just dominant throughout the whole final series, weren't they?
Well, Brothers, they learnt how to win, and that was what was good for them. But more impressively for UQ, I think, is their last regular season game was against Jeeps at Yoku Road, and they lost. A bit convincingly, right? Not overly, but still convincingly. But then they met in the prelim final after UQ beat East in the minor semi-final. Jeeps, statistically, the best set piece side for the year, the best attacking side, and I think one of the best defensive sides in the comp.
Yeah.
And they managed to beat them. In what was a pretty close final until the last 15 minutes.
Yeah. The Red Heavies really got it done at the end of that one, didn't
Exactly.
they? Byron Ralston, really good. You're a fan of him, correct?
He's a brother's boy.
He is a brother's boy, yeah.
No, I just played with him. Yeah, probably his best ever teammate. I think he had
Did he end up playing for a different team in the...
He played for the Force.
I thought he played for the Force.
He did win the NRC, so congratulations, Byron. But no, it's
Wow, Finn, you've played with some real superstars.
Yeah, what happened to you, mate?
I stopped growing at 5'7". Started worrying about my hairline.
Well, now's a great time to announce we've got a sponsor, Ashley and Martin jokes.
I wish.
Well, I mean, you played with Zach Steer.
Yeah.
You played with Byron.
Gilbert.
Like, who else were you with?
Gilbert.
Gilbert as well? Oh, my God. What's
See,
going on, mate?
You're talking about me playing with them, but they played with me.
Yeah.
Lucky them.
Okay, sure.
One day they'll release biographies and stuff, and they'll say, yes, I won 6 grand finals in a row. But in under 10s, Tom Gilbert, played with Finn Morton.
I think you're the outlier in the story.
Yeah.
There's a common theme.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something we share in common. Gussie, you don't, mate.
Oh, funny.
Which cricketers have you played with?
Sorry?
Who's the best cricketer you've played with?
Oh,
Ashan?
I think I've played against Connor.
You played against
I
Connor?
think I played against Connor maybe
You
back in ages ago. I played against Andy Bickle's son.
Yeah, Keegan.
Is it Keegan?
Yeah, Keegan.
Yeah, I played against Harry Wilson as well.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go. Anyway,
so
Harry Wilson, he's a pretty good cricketer too, isn't
very
he?
good cricketer.
he is very good cricketer.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing a video of, I think he scored a ton playing for Terrace.
Yeah, he did.
And it was either grade 11 or grade 12.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Just
good.
What I'd give to be that gifted. eh?
Oh, I know, right?
It's not fair. It's not
Exactly.
fair.
Hey, we're gifted in other ways, boys.
Are we? Listen to us.
Not really. Gussie, Burleigh Bears, they won the QRL competition. What did you think of it?
Oh yeah, brilliant. Burleigh Bears were once again one of the standouts in the QRL competition. We all thought that the Sunshine Coast Falcons were going to take it out. I mean, just looking at the ladder, like their for and against was unbelievable.
It was like something like 500, 600 plus or something like that.
It was insane. I've never seen it before. They were the standout side, and Burleigh Bears were kind of trying to keep pace with them all year.
Mm-hmm.
Them and Wynnum Manly, they were trying to keep pace. Burleigh just had an outstanding final series once again. They took down Sunshine Coast, I believe, in the first round of the finals. Got that home semi-final, got the week off, and made it through and took on Wynnum in the final. And look, of course, we all expected the Falcons to be there. They were out straight away.
Well, were they undefeated in the season?
Yeah, they only lost one game or two
like
games.
They lost once and drew once.
Yeah,
drew once.
But
and then they lost twice in the finals.
Well, they also played that sensational game against the Newtown Jets, correct?
Yeah, they did. It was
Heartbreak, Gussie.
It was, yeah.
After the Hooter.
Yeah, I was in Sydney for that. I wasn't at the game, but was watching it in the hotel, and it was shocking. They wouldn't have been happy with that.
Because it was a 60-meter try, wasn't it? Like a chip and chase
it was
by
a
one
chip
of
over the top. It was a chip over the top, last seconds of the game.
It's one of the second rows or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I can't remember his name either.
Rudolph or something like that. It's some reindeer or I don't know.
Some reindeer, nice.
See,
I think
relevant.
It's Rudolph.
It's Christmas
I think
time.
It's Rudolph.
No,
yeah,
it's,
it is.
Festive.
But I think Newtown, I think they also did a similar thing in the New South Wales Cup.
Yeah,
but
they did.
I'll forgive you if you don't know about that, Gusman.
No, they did. I think they did it about twice as well.
Pretty much an identical play if you play them side by side.
They were the perfect finishers, Newtown. But back on Burleigh. Burleigh won the QRL final. They were pretty dominant all year, and I think they deserved it. Jamal Fogarty, he was outstanding. He was probably their number one player. Just turning the screws in that side. He's been a quality in-trust player for a long time. And you know what? I think he's a sort of player that could break into that Titan side. He's a real standout.
Not very hard, is it?
I see him coming and breaking into that side and doing really well.
Yeah, well, building on that, we're going to move into our standout athletes of the year. You mentioned Jamal Fogarty there. He's one of your standout athletes of the year.
Yes,
he's really stood up. Are there any others that you think have really put the name for themselves this year?
Yes, I've got Ash Barty as another one. She was brilliant, Ashley. The number one female tennis player in the world right now. Probably, I don't know when the last time an Australian was up at number one.
I think she's the first Australian to finish the year at number one.
Since Margaret Court, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Which was back in, I want to say, like the 70s.
Yeah.
Leighton Hewitt, about 10 years ago, I think he was world number one. But again, if we're talking about women only, it was back at Margaret Court's day. So there you go.
Exactly. Well, she also had, I think this year, the largest prize packet in any competition.
I think it was about 71 million, wasn't it?
It was, I don't know if it was that much, but it was something ridiculous. It was the most out of any men or women, the most of tennis player won this year, which is just incredible.
I really love what she's done for women's sport. How she's brought a lot of attention to tennis as well, specifically women's tennis.
Yeah.
She's doing a great job. She was a former cricketer as well.
Yeah, she used to play for the Brisbane Heat.
For the Brisbane Heat, yeah.
So crazy.
I mean, she's just a standout athlete, and a great role model as well. You look at guys like Nick Kyrgios, Bernard Tomic,
and
they're just not the sort of people you want your kids looking up to. But then you see Ash Barty and what she's doing in the world of tennis, and you're like, I want my daughter or my son to grow up and be as good as
she's
Ash
certainly
Barty.
the people's favourite, that's for sure.
Well, I think women's athletes in Australia, they're doing it right when it comes to being role models. Because you look beyond tennis, you look at football, Samantha Kerr.
Yeah.
She's
She is.
probably the most popular athlete in Australia at the moment.
Yeah, you've got Elise Perry in the cricket.
Exactly.
There's plenty of options out there.
Well, the women have just smashed it in all regards,
They have.
especially internationally. Like the women won the World Cup, correct? Was that this year?
The Cricket World Cup.
Yeah.
I think they won the T20 World Cup this year or last year.
Yeah. I mean, even in the last Football World Cup, they did very well. They've done well in sevens. They've done well in everything, pretty much.
Exactly. So it's they are the benchmark in a way, certainly as role models, which I think as an athlete you are, if you like it or not.
For
And
sure.
someone like Ash Barty, she's doing it very, very well.
Well, someone else that's doing it very well, Bon Scott. Finn, I'll let you talk about the AC/DC man, the man from Perry Park, goalkeeper. We spoke to him earlier this year.
Well, what can you say about your hero? They say don't meet your hero. I did, and it was excellent.
He's a legend.
He's a legend.
Didn't
And-
quite meet him. It was over the phone, but...
Well, we're on a first name basis pretty much,
Yeah,
mate.
pretty
So
much.
it's no, but again, he had one of the standout performances, I think, of a semi-professional or amateur athlete in Australia this season. If you look at his FFA Cup highlights, mate, some of those saves as a goalkeeper are just absolutely insane.
Yeah, and I've said this before, he's very reflex-based, very acrobatic.
Yep.
I think there's a few things he needs to iron out of his game before he kind of makes that next step. But in terms of those, he is a highlights player.
I think the thing that's holding him back, and he touched on this when he had trials at Palace,
Watford.
Watford, is his height.
Yeah.
And that's something that he can't change. And is that something that's going to hold him back still? Even with his very, very impressive saves.
I think that's more of a traditional problem that a lot of goalkeepers face, is they need to be 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and he's only 6 foot, I believe.
Yeah.
So that is a big problem. I think it's Jordan Pickford's quite short as well. I think that's what leads him to be a bit more acrobatic than potentially more taller goalkeepers. But I think it's heading away. I think something that he needs to work on is probably, he's quite good with his feet actually, because he used to be a striker, as he mentioned. I think as long as he gets good with his feet, and all he needs is one coach. He's nearly 6'1". We've just looked it up.
Jordan Pickford.
Jordan Pickford is sorry. So, and he's the England #1. He's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. But something he need, as long as he needs that one coach to go, I'm taking a shot on you.
Well, I guess you look at rugby, someone like Damien McKenzie. He was the fullback for the All Blacks last year. Faf de Klerk. Guys who are very short, shorter than us, and we are very short guys. And they're owning their sports in a sport which has long been dominated by the bigger you are, the better you are.
Especially in the goalkeeper position.
Exactly. So it's very similar with the goalkeeper position. But again, he has to prove that his height isn't going to hold him back.
He's good for, in terms of any team wanting to take a shot on him. He's very good PR-wise. He's a great speaker. He's a really good character.
Well, I really think he was one of the best interviews we've had.
Yeah,
in terms of the back and forth was fun.
Yeah, he's a lovely guy.
Really fun.
Yeah.
Not overly media trained.
Yes.
Was he at all? I don't know.
Probably.
Called me a fraud.
Yeah, well,
He
he's only speaking the truth.
In fact, I think that was my highlight of 2019.
I think that was too.
Yeah, great highlight.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what about you, Campbell? Mate, standout athletes. If we're talking about grassroots athletes.
If we're talking about grassroots athletes, it's not, well, we mentioned him before. Matt Eagles is probably one for me. What more can we say? The recruit. He's been a real highlight for me. But if we're talking about non-professional athletes, something that's a bit closer to my heart, and I think he's made a real impact socially as well, culturally.
Definitely.
Sia Khaleesi, the World Cup winning captain, the first ever black captain of South Africa, and also the first ever black captain to win for South Africa, obviously. I think this World Cup that they did win means a lot more than a lot of others. It's comparable to the one that we won back in the day. Was it 95, I think?
Yeah, every 12 years, South Africa win it. There you go.
So when's the next 12 years? 2031?
Yeah. Well, again,
There we go.
I think I touched on this when we did our Rugby World Cup preview, but teams like New Zealand, it's the expectation that they win.
Mm-hmm.
But for South Africa, it goes beyond that, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it's what will this mean for the country?
It's a uniting thing. And you saw Rassi Erasmus say the same thing.
Oh, those comments.
Those post interviews were just something special.
Yeah.
Really something special. That's probably my highlight.
Again, people were crying in the press conference room.
I was almost crying
Yeah.
just listening to it. It's just crazy. That actually is my Rassi Erasmus's post-game speech. What it means to the nation. That's probably my highlight of the year.
Again, I wasn't crying because I have no connection to it, but
No.
definitely goosebumps.
Yeah.
Listening to
It
that.
gives you
Definitely
chills even thinking
goosebumps.
about it. And, Sia Khaleesi maybe didn't play the best tournament.
No.
There was calls for him potentially getting dropped. Obviously, they weren't going to drop him.
It was a captain's knock, mate. He did what he needed.
Exactly. But you can't really fault him.
And I think it really hit me walking out of Yokohama Stadium when outside the stadium there were pictures of all the World Cup winning captains, all of them white.
Yeah.
And especially coming out of that and hearing those comments and seeing that and going, well, in 4 years there's going to be a picture of a black man, lifting the World Cup. How great's that for progression? And I guess for that country as well, especially for South Africa.
Especially for South Africa. We're in such a state of turmoil at the moment. And just to see something so powerful like that, it's just something else. It's really something else. One that's probably not as great, Israel Folau. Very interesting. Everyone has their own opinions on it.
He stood out.
Polarizing.
He definitely
He stood out. We're not saying he stood out in a good way or a bad way. He just stood out. Interesting this year.
It's important that he got to speak his religious beliefs. I think that's important. But it's how he went about it. And in his role as a athlete, as a role model, as we touched on with Ash Barty, Gussie, you can't be coming out and attacking people, which is ultimately what he did. But again, he stood out.
Yeah, well, he's had a law pretty much
made plenty of headlines. So the news corporations were happy, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Writing a lot about him.
Yeah, almost like the Courier Mail, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, he laughs about it. There we go.
That's funny.
Someone that probably wasn't making as many headlines, especially more widespread. Tim Atherton from the Brisbane Bandits and the Australian pitcher. He's had a sensational year. I think he became the quickest player to get to 300 strikeouts in the ABL. In the reformed
Well, again, he was
ABL.
also part of that team that beat the United States.
He was the starting pitcher on that day, which is crazy. So what an absolute year from him. He just goes from strength to strength. Oakland Athletics prospect. Who knows if he'll make it through just because of his age. But Finn, you've got one more.
I think we'll finish with this one, guys. Harry Wilson. Again, if we're going back to grassroots, but a massive prospect for the world of professional sports. The Terrace old boy, playing rugby now for Brothers, the Filth, and also Queensland Country.
Reds. Queensland Reds
Queensland
too.
Reds as well. Junior Wallabies. I think he missed about 6 games this season in Premier Grade because he was on Junior Wallabies duty.
Yep.
And he still won Prem Grade Player of the Season.
Mm-hmm. He won. Did he win the NRC Player of the Tournament?
Yep.
Well, understandably, he was just sensational. He scored an awesome try against Drua as well.
Exactly.
I really see him and Fraser McWright leading that Queensland side and possibly leading the Australian side in the future.
I think so too. I think you see Fraser as a future captain for both those sides. No pressure on him. But
I really think Wilson will be a captain.
You think so?
Not saying that Fraser won't. They might both be eventually. But I almost think Harry Wilson might be first.
Well, Harry's younger than him.
Yeah, but I think...
Not that it means anything, but that just shows how incredible of a player and a prospect he is.
I think he'll break into the Wallabies next season.
I think
in
so
2020.
too.
So we'll see what 2020 brings for Harry Wilson if these prophecies come true.
Let's hope
But
so.
again, if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's one for the future.
If
that's
not,
for sure.
Queensland Reds are primed to make a really good season or a building season. May not be best record-wise, but definitely a promising season.
They'll be good in 4 years.
Yeah,
Very good in 4 years.
If they can hold on to everyone. Anyway, boys, that's. Do you guys have anything to add for your 2019? Anything? Boys, I'll just say, it's been a pleasure starting the podcast with you. Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've still got 20 minutes to go.
We do. So
Save all the
I guess
sobby for
the pleasantries will have to
a
wait
bit
till the
later.
end.
Yeah, come on, switch on. Where's your professionalism?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Happy New Year.
Well, let's get into our favourite thing in a few minutes. Gussie's got to take over the Bulls Masters. We got to run out of here. Let's get on to that. And we're back after wrapping up 2019, what was and what will be, what we had last week, boys.
Well, there's only one thing I want for Christmas.
What's that?
Bulls Masters Cricket Roundup.
Oh, yeah. Let's get straight into it. Let's not waste time with the pleasantries. Gussie, get on with it. Let's do it.
I got to agree with you there, Finn. It's all I want for Christmas as well. And guess what? It's what I got. So here we go, bit of Bulls Masters. University of Queensland, the standout side in the Bulls Masters right now. We are, of course, in the 2020 stage. UQ got the job done against Wynnum Manly, keeping that unbeaten run alive. They have been outstanding. Michael Phillipson, half century to him, and UQ are now 4 from 4 in the 2020 competition so far. Wynnum Manly, 7 for 117, defeated by UQ, 4 for 120. Western Suburbs also held on for a win against Redlands in their clash. Western Suburbs now push into that top 4, along with UQ, Sunshine Coast, and South Brisbane, I believe. Western Suburbs, 7 for 144, defeated Redlands, 9 for 123. So currently, Sunshine Coast are on top of the T20 ladder. Both themselves and second place UQ are undefeated in the competition, with Northern Suburbs and Western Suburbs rounding out the top 4. The final 2 rounds of the Kookaburra Cup 2020 competition continues this weekend, boys. So excited for that.
Hell yeah. Was it did you get to watch any of the games?
No.
No.
He's in
it
rugby.
ain't on
This
TV.
is true.
I could have popped down to UQ, but, I was busy doing other things. So, I can keep up to date from checking the website. So I got all the results
For
there
sure.
for me.
Well, staying on cricket, and in the longer form, we just mentioned that the Boxing Day test has started. It's underway. What are you making of it so far?
Mate, that atmosphere looks awesome, doesn't it?
Oh, nothing
guys-
like the G.
When Steve Smith walked out, he was booed by about 20 to 30,000 New Zealand fans who have travelled across the Tasman to watch
their team lose.
Pretty much, mate, but it's also New Zealand's first Boxing Day test in Australia in about 32 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is,
Well, they've been pretty average for a while.
they have, but they're now, rightly or wrongly, ranked as the second best test team in the world.
Behind who?
But
I'd
gotta
say behind
plenty
Australia.
Okay, fair
India
play.
would be.
Yeah.
No,
India.
they're behind
Or
India.
England.
Yeah.
Plenty of New Zealand fans rocking the retro kits as well.
I
Did
love
you see
those. The brown,
Yeah, they're
the
great.
beige.
The old,
I haven't
I
seen
think
these.
they're the old one-day kits.
Yeah,
aren't
they are. They're absolutely disgusting. I want one.
Are they
From
selling
about-
them again?
From
No,
the 90s.
oh,
I
you
think.
can find them.
Yeah.
You can find them. They're available places, but I want one.
What do you want for Christmas?
My
mate?
birthday's coming up, guys. I'm just saying.
5th of January.
Oh,
6th, but
Yeah.
thanks for knowing.
Damn
No,
That's
but
close.
it looks awesome, guys. And I think Australia, at the time of recording at least, I think they're going to run away with it.
yeah.
Convincingly
They look
again.
on top at the moment.
Um,
Steve Smith got out a couple hours ago.
for 85.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, Australia's looking good. Usually, we're classic flat track bullies, so I assume we'll do the job.
What are we making of the pitch so far?
It's not as dangerous as
average.
what it was a few weeks ago.
But it's still quite bouncy.
It
It's
is.
bouncing uncharacteristically, I
It is.
think.
Apparently, it's popping up off a length.
Yeah.
So what that's sort of saying to me is that maybe spin might play a factor.
Mm.
If Nathan Lyon
Jazz.
has,
Santner.
if the wicket's still playing like that, maybe Nathan Lyon has a bit of an opportunity to take a few wickets. Because New Zealand, yeah, they only really have Mitchell Santner, don't they? They haven't really got anyone else who bowls spin. So possibly Nathan Lyon might go a big way to winning this game for Australia.
The GOAT.
Santner's just going to step up, bowl his left arm slow,
Five,
wide, pitch it
Left
up.
arm slow.
Seriously, that's what he does. He doesn't spin it at all.
Pavel Florin.
I was about to say,
Basically.
Slow,
describe
slow bowling.
slow.
Mitchell
bowling.
Santner's a poor man's Pavel Florin. There you go.
Pretty much. Gussie, also touch on the BBL for us, would you?
Yeah, well, as of Boxing Day, Sydney Thunder, they sit on top of the BBL 09 ladder. They've won 2 games, and they got that draw as well in Canberra.
I saw that.
Now that
Was that
a
at
strange
Monaco
one 'cause-
or
Yeah, at Monaco. That got cancelled because of
the smoke, wasn't it?
the smoke from the bushfires.
Mm.
So apparently the visibility wasn't good enough to play, and I mean you can't blame them.
Was that against the Strikers?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it
against the Strikers. So now
Wait.
I want to touch on this. This has happened to the Sydney Thunder twice, game cancellations. So if you remember back last year at the Gabba when the lights turned off,
Oh, yeah,
Buffalo.
I was at that
Gabba
game.
turned off.
I was at
Yeah.
that game. Yeah.
So that game got cancelled right when the Sydney Thunder. It looked like the Sydney Thunder were probably going to win,
yeah.
and it's gone and happened again.
Oh, my God.
They,
Fair enough.
they've another game cancelled.
They're cursed.
Well, it's a good time to mention thoughts with everyone, I guess, down in New South Wales and stuff. The bushfires,
Exactly.
firefighters fighting it, doing a good job, but it's guys, it's not great, is it?
It's really not great.
Oh, but everyone inland as well, and up north, everyone's really struggling at the moment. It's just so dry.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm up at Rockhampton, and it's just, you look around and it's dry as anything.
So really, like cricket, when you put it into perspective like that, not a massive thing, especially not the BBL.
No.
But still.
I gotta say, you could set up a pretty nice wicket out here. It'd be an absolute road.
Get out the rollers.
See, mate, definitely some positives. No,
Exactly.
it's but there were some games played, Gusman. What were they?
Yeah, well, in the BBL, we've seen the Heat lose their first 2 games. Disappointing from them. They've really been tipped as the side that's going to win the competition this year.
Yeah, they have.
They got back into the good books after beating Sydney.
It was quite convincing too.
They
Chris Lynn with a
smashed
good
them.
performance.
Chris Lynn, 90, I want to say 94 off 35.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think.
93 or 94. Yeah, he was outstanding.
No, 95 of 34.
Yeah,
No,
the
one of the
sides-
two. I don't know.
The sides that look the goods at the moment, the
Sixers?
Melbourne Stars, the Sixers have. I don't.
I think
like
they've
them.
looked all right. Stars and Sixers have looked
Gussie,
pretty
Maybe
good.
not anymore.
I'd say-
I like the look of the Stars. I like the look of the Thunder, and I like the look of the Heat.
Yeah.
I think the Stars are the pick, but I still think it's far too early to start making any
Yeah,
predictions.
Exactly.
It's T20 cricket. It's just not the nature of the sport.
Yeah.
And something we were
Exactly.
speaking off air is teams like the Heat, when they start performing, players start getting poached, don't they? So
Yeah.
like Swepson, again, he's off.
Yeah,
Labuschagne,
exactly.
he's gone.
Joe Burns.
Joe Burns, he's gone. You know,
Well, I
so
mean, last year's champions, the Renegades, they're in last place. Haven't won a game.
exactly.
So
You also,
anything can happen.
you also look at the Stars when ODIs come around. Stoinis, he's going to go.
Yeah.
Zampa,
Maxwell's going to go.
Maxwell,
Yeah,
3 best
Yeah.
players.
exactly. So
interesting.
again, it's far too early to tell. But
Exactly.
at the moment, if the squads stay as they are, then yeah, the Stars, I think they're the pick of it.
I think the Scorchers have looked dreadful this year. I think the Scorchers have
Scorchers,
looked
yeah,
bloody
yeah.
dreadful. Although, interesting thing, Jai Richardson with the run out. Did you see that one?
I missed it.
I think it was
didn't
against the
know.
Strikers. He's got an injury in his right shoulder, and
Yeah.
what he did, it was a shot played by, I can't remember, it was to run out Jacob Weatherald, who was on like 75 at that point.
Yeah.
And so Jacob Weatherald, I think, plays a shot out to, I think it was square leg, and goes towards the boundary. Jacob Weatherald picks it up and bowls it in.
Really?
So he doesn't throw it
Oh wow.
because he's got the injury, so he has to bowl it in.
And he hits.
It hits. He gets the
Oh.
run out. It was so
Oh, no,
crazy.
I did see that.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
incredible.
insane. It was mental.
It was incredible. Case Ahmed for the Hobart Hurricanes has been insane too.
Stealing
Also,
my notes.
I'd
That's
like
cool.
to special mention. I'd like to mention Harris Ralph as well.
Ralph Harris.
He's Ralph Harris. No, I don't know.
Let's not call
He's
him
been
that.
outstanding, but he's been dropped.
I don't know why.
For Dale
He's
Steyn,
been
right?
dropped for Dale Steyn,
Okay, that's
and
fair
I mean you can understand
He's
because
not-
Dale Steyn is
He's not.
pretty good.
He's not exactly a bad ringer. I think it's
No.
okay. It's okay.
You'd think there'd be a space in that side for him
Somewhere.
after what he's done.
Did he have a forfer or was that?
He got Pfeiffer.
He got a fifer.
He's got the
Jeez.
yellow.
Yeah.
He's got the yellow hat.
Does
And
he?
And he's been dropped.
Oh, how are you doing that? Hobart
Yeah.
Hurricanes. The Canes. Bevos, the Cane
We know
train.
someone's happy about it.
We know someone's happy
Daily-
about it.
He
daily
was
updates.
not happy after that Stars game.
Dude, he
No.
takes it far too to heart,
Mate,
doesn't he?
he's licking his fingers.
Yeah.
Unless, in case you don't know who we're talking about the Bev, otherwise known as the Bev Show.
Jacob Beavers.
Jacob Beavers.
And he's doing
Legend.
good. He's doing good
great
things.
stuff.
He's a Hobart Hurricanes super fan.
Yeah.
He's a bit quirky, but that's part of his character. So keep it up, Bev.
It is. What are we moving on to? Moving on to a little bit of ABL, boys. Our Brizzy Bandits have only made their start to the season worse as they nearly got swept by the worst team in the division, the Canberra Cavalry. I thought this was a chance for redemption to put themselves at the top, and, get back on track. But no, they're one of the worst records in the league. Their week's play puts them at equal last in the division and in the league. Hopefully they can have a few strong weeks. They're alongside Geelong Korea, but hopefully they can have a few strong weeks and put themselves back to where they're used to being. On a positive note, though, a friend of the show, David Sutherland, otherwise known as Goofy, he was voted player of the series after a dominant performance with the bat, especially in the last game to put the side ahead, I believe. Towards the death.
They needed to do well in the series.
They
didn't
did, and they didn't. They really needed a 3 or a sweep, and they didn't get it.
But I still don't
If
think.
people,
I don't think they were expecting Auckland to do as well as they were. I know we won't touch on Auckland, but still, I think that was a bit of a surprise to the league and a bit of a wake-up call.
Yeah, well,
itself.
someone who, you speak about Auckland, someone who's been incredible for them is Jared Walker, the American, part of the Dodgers system. He's batting at 321, and he's got an on-base percentage of 479. So that means basically 50% of the time he'll get on base.
Jesus,
which is just crazy. Like that's
not normal for baseball.
No, not normal. And it's really, really good, and he's doing very well for them.
Well, I mean, Auckland have been a standout. They've defeated
incredible.
Brisbane, and now they've defeated Sydney. They drew with Brisbane, and now they defeated Sydney. They're looking the goods right now.
They swept Sydney, didn't they?
They beat Brisbane 3-1.
Yeah.
And swept Sydney.
Oh, they beat Brisbane as well.
They beat Brisbane 3-1. They swept Sydney this weekend.
Yeah.
Look, they've gone from having a bit of a up and down start to the season to now being outright first.
Yeah.
Not just in the division, but across the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, but it's all about the Bandits, and they're equal last. So
They are.
The opposite story for them.
Yeah, well, you talk about that. Auckland are leading the North East by 2 games, followed by Sydney and the Canberra Cavalry, both with 9 wins. So they're 2 games ahead, so that gives them a bit of a leeway. Hopefully they can make some more. And again, Bandits only have 8 wins, so it is quite tight still. It's only one series. Like, one series can turn it. That's what I love about the competition. But in the Southwest, the Adelaide Giants actually lead the division, surprisingly, with 13 wins. So they're actually the best in the competition, followed by the Perth Heat with 12, Melbourne Aces with 11, and Geelong Korea with 8.
The Perth Heat, that sounds really weird.
Does
After just
sound weird.
talking about the Big Bash.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It throws you off a bit, doesn't it?
They're historically one of the best teams in the competition, so
yeah.
Who knows? Same with the Perth Scorchers, so maybe they just do well in summer sports. I think the Perth Scorchers have had 3 titles. I think they're the most successful team.
3.
But let's get on to the A-League. Speaking about Perth, what a result.
Mate, they didn't just beat the Jets. They absolutely...
They flogged
It
them.
was a pretty bad Christmas for the Jets and their fans. 6-2, Perth getting over the Jets at home. Mate, that's crazy. And that's certainly a declaration of we're here to compete.
Yeah.
We're very different to the team we were 3 weeks ago. Perth, that's what they're saying. So it's a massive win. Also, Adelaide, we spoke about them a few weeks ago as a team who are possibly going to contend with Sydney.
On the ascension.
And they lost to the Mariners 2-1, the cellar dwellers.
Yep.
It's
I don't think Adelaide played their full strength team. If I'm wrong about that, I think they rested a couple people.
They rested 5 of their players.
Yeah, so it's
That's crazy.
You should be taking every game seriously, and just because it's Central Coast, you shouldn't be resting half your team. You should be going out there to win. Congratulations to Central Coast. I mean, they were brilliant. They held on for this one. I think it was 2-0, wasn't it?
2-1. So it's a bit of karma, is it, Gussie? It's a bit of karma.
Yeah.
But
They got complacent and they got what they deserved.
Was this the game where there were some issues with the fans boycotting it? Was this game?
I think it was the week before.
Was that the week before? Okay, fair enough then.
Yeah.
Or a few weeks
That
before.
was-
I think it was their game against Newcastle in round 9.
Okay, yeah.
That's a
That's an interesting
story for
one.
another day.
For sure.
But that's
Well, what about that Melbourne Derby, boys?
well, that was
What
the
did we
game.
think of that?
That was the game of the round, and
Yeah.
an upset. Is that fair to say, or the victory just
Oh,
lift when they're
definitely
playing
an
these
upset.
derbies?
Standings wise, yeah, it's certainly an upset, but I mean, Melbourne Victory would have fancied themselves there.
And historically, they fancied themselves.
Certainly. I mean, it's tough with the Melbourne City because obviously they're part of the City group, so they have a lot of financial backing. So, and Jamie McLaren's been incredible this season, but that's a pretty awesome game, and you love I think the Melbourne Derby's one of the best derbies in Australian sport.
I watched most of it,
Exactly.
and City, they looked flustered, didn't they? They looked,
Mm.
I think, swallowed up by the pressure and the expectation of
Well,
we're competing
I
for.
I'd just
Sorry.
like to mention Melbourne City have lost a few shockers to some lower teams. I mean, let's not forget they lost to the Raw. They've also didn't they lose to Perth as well? I think when Perth were on the bottom of the ladder. So it seems they're just losing to these sides right at their
Again,
right when they're doing their worst.
I think form and ladder positions, goes out the window in these rivalries, these derby games.
Yeah.
And that's what victory showed, mate. They lifted when they needed to. And it's quite funny because City, a few weeks ago, they posted on their Facebook and social medias a post saying, I don't know, Merry Christmas, Melbourne Victory. this week you lose. It was something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they had a dig at victory saying, you're going to lose in a few weeks and hasn't quite aged well. But something I want to chat about. I chat about it every week, and just when I thought it couldn't get any better, the Phoenix drawing at home to Sydney FC 2-2. Did you guys watch any of that?
I did not.
No, we were kept updated by you.
Of course.
You gave us reminders every 15 minutes.
You know how Bev's the Hobart Hurricanes super fan? I think I could be that for the Phoenix.
I think you could too, mate.
Give us a woohoo.
Woohoo, you beauty. Come on, Wellington. No, it was... tell you what,
next.
2-2 is not a fair result for Wellington. They should have won that. They were dominant. And it's pretty cool signs for a side who are still not taken seriously, I don't think. The Phoenix being in the top 6.
I don't think they are either.
But yeah, doing what not many teams have done. Well, Sydney FC, I think that was going to be their 6th win in a row if they won it. Or they went into the game winning 6 in a row. So yeah, Phoenix managed to stop that. They look good. And they should have won it. What's our striker's name? Davila?
Yeah, Aloysius Davila.
Yeah, he missed an absolute sitter. One of the misses of the season with about 3 minutes to go. But still, I think that's great. And last game of the round, Wanderers drawing 1-1 with Western United. United, they've really fallen off the bandwagon, haven't they?
They have a little bit. A little bit of hot start has come a bit shy, I guess. Not good from them.
No, it's not. It's not. And if we look at the fixtures...
Well, yeah, you guys are playing them, I believe.
In Ballarat.
Yeah, so it'll be Phoenix versus United. That's Western United in Ballarat. Probably, where is it actually? What ground is it at? Mars Stadium. So they'll be playing on a footy field.
That's where they played the AFL last year,
It is
right?
where they played the AFL.
I gotta
where
say,
Adelaide played the Dogs.
I am eyeing up that Sydney FC Melbourne City game. I think that could be an early grand final, that.
Which one was that? The Sydney Melbourne?
Sydney FC Melbourne.
Yeah, it could definitely be. I mean, it's also the Brisbane Roar versus Newcastle. It's a bit of a bottom of the table clash. But
again, we say this every week, but when teams start winning, they can get into the finals pretty easily. I think
this could be a momentum change for whichever.
I'm pretty sure the Victory is 7th or something like that. So, and they've only won about, I think, 2 in a row, or they're 7th. They've done moderately okay in 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, they've gone from last to 7th.
Yeah, well, that Sydney-Melbourne game will be at Jubilee Stadium as well, so that'll be good to see.
Great atmosphere.
Yeah, really good atmosphere there. A few of them are being played at smaller stadiums, but it'll be good to see. I mean, that Adelaide West. I mean, they're all pretty good clashes this week, actually.
Adelaide Wanderers and Central Coast Perth.
Even games, I think. A lot of these games.
Yeah, I think they're quite even. Yeah, I mean, we say Western United have fallen off the bandwagon, but they're still third. That's not bad at all.
Jeez, that's not bad at all.
That's like we say, like they've fallen off. But
so maybe they're under the radar.
I think they're going under the radar a little bit.
And remember, this is like a rivalry match too. Western United Wellington, because of United poaching all of the Phoenix's top players and coach last season, at the end of last season. So it's it's nice to have a derby, I think, as a Wellington supporter.
Certainly is. Yeah. Certainly is. Anyway, is that all we got, boys?
Sydney to Hobart.
Hobart, that's happening at the moment.
I'll tell you what, if we get to 10,000 Instagram followers next year, I think we should do it.
I think we should.
Get
a tinny out.
Rent a tinny.
Have a go.
Do a Jono and Ben, the New Zealand Hamish and Andy.
Well, I gotta say, once me and my mate, we took a peddler to Africa.
Good reference. I like it. If you like that reference, please let us know. You can let us know on pretty much everything. We've got Facebook, we've got Instagram. We may have a website coming in the new year. Just keep your eyes peeled for that.
Bit of a Christmas miracle,
that. This is the last episode of 2019, boys.
See you next year.
Our Instagram is at _beyondthesidelines_. Facebook's just Beyond the Sidelines. But yeah, let us know if you want anything. Happy New Year to everyone. And keep your eyes peeled for any future content we may have coming.
Merry New Year.
Merry New Year, as Marshawn Lynch said. We hope you do some shots with the Bills Mafia as well. Hopefully you get signed by an NFL team 8 days afterwards.
Should be the Bills Mafia, not the Mafia. But let's just establish that.
Yeah, not the Mafia. You may end up with your finger chopped off. But exactly. Bills Mafia, you'll only end up jumping through tables.
That looks like a lot of fun, though.
My mate did it last New Year's.
What, over in Buffalo? Or?
No. He did it onto a ping pong table off the fence.
Oh, sweet. Got 4 days.
Bills Mafia. Fun. Let's find a fence, boys. Let's find a ping pong table.